This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Nikita Koloff is going to return at Wrestle War 89 to be the special guest referee in the return match with the Road Warriors. And this collection of talent involved in this match is pretty big. You got the Road Warriors, Paul Ellering, Steve Williams, Mike Rotundo, Kevin Sullivan, and Dan Spivey. And they're following the classic, or they're also going to have the Flair Steamboat Classic match here. This is sort of a forgotten era. We sort of talked about some of maybe the silly booking that happened in 88. But you think about all the talent that's in this match in particular, and this same show has Flair Steamboat. 89 is sort of like a forgotten great year for the NWA. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't know how you can forget it, quite frankly, but it was 89 was, I call those 3 Flair Steamboat matches with 3 different partners in 3 different locations. Perhaps
forgotten is the wrong word, but I feel like it gets unfairly characterized as, oh, LOL, Jim Herd, everything that happened on his watch sucked. But 89 was really strong.
I agree. And it continued to be good because we went seamlessly from Nate and Ricky right into Nate and Terry Funk. I mean, it was boom. That was a great year. So I look back at 89 differently. I look back at it as probably the most solid wrestling year that we ever had in WCW while I was there.
Right. Let's talk about the match here itself. I guess we should just mention the titles are eventually stripped from Williams and Rotundo, and then Scott Steiner debuts and he's put on the loop with his brother Rick, and they're going to take on Mike and various members of the Varsity Club. Why the decision to move away from Williams and Rotundo as tag champs? Did you just not think they had the right pairing? Were they not getting the right kind of heat, or was it just not the right creative at the time?
I don't know, Conrad, to be perfectly honest with you and our audience today, exactly why that was that way. It may have had something to do with Doc's Japanese commitments because he was making a lot of money over there.
I see.
And so it may have been the fact that he didn't want to forsake his, multi-$1,000 a week guarantee for going over there. Doc was going to Japan so much, he bought a home in Maui to break up the trip. So I'm guessing that had something to do with it. I'm not sure, but this may have been the cash and creative. The cash, the creative being what it was, but the main thing in my view on this was the cash. So that may have been it. His Doc's availability may have had something to do with taking this team apart. As I said earlier, they never got on a roll. Everything was cut short for whatever reason. And
let's talk about that because they win the belts from the Road Warriors on April 2nd, 1989. And by May 7th, when Wrestle War happens, because Nikita Koloff is the referee and Kevin Sullivan and Dan Spivey attack that referee during the match, they just strip them of the belts. So they hold the titles for just over a month. And then over the course of the following month, we're going to have a tournament, and the Midnight Express are going to lose in the finale to the Freebirds. But it just feels like a way to get the belts off of them without beating them. And normally you would think that would happen, on the other side when they're beating the Road Warriors. But the Road Warriors had no problems doing the job, but I guess maybe Dr. Death couldn't.
Dysfunctional booking scenarios.
Yeah.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Let my family save your family some cash. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket, but we will save you money. It's not a matter if, it's a matter of how much. SaveWithConrad.com.
Pretty well sums that up.
I do like the pairing though of Scott Steiner, debuting here, working with his brother Rick. Let's talk about Great American Bash 89. The Steiner brothers are going to win a tornado match, beating Mike Rotundo and Kevin Sullivan in 4 minutes and 42 seconds. And they start with chair shots. That's how they start. The finish would see Kevin Sullivan have Rick up for a body slam, but Scott comes off the top rope with a flying press, and both of the brothers are going to pin Kevin Sullivan. And Meltzer would say after the match, and I believe this never aired on TV because they were doing slow-mo of the finish and then interviews, Sullivan and Rotundo started shoving one another, and Rotundo walked out on Sullivan. but I believe this was done more to distract the fans from the fact that the heels lost rather than to foreshadow an imminent turn. 2.5 stars. You know, if you've got a big hot team that you're wanting to push because they have a great look, they have a great amateur background, you have high hopes. That is the Steiner brothers. Putting them in there with guys like Kevin Sullivan and Mike Rotundo, you know you're in good hands, right?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. You know, again, on again, off again booking, no continuity. Tell me where we're going. What is our destination? And because you did have that too many cooks in the kitchen dysfunctional booking committee, the final destination was always was ever changing. And you know, the best booking is book. You know, go to your, you know, Cowboy used to always use the Superdome as his benchmark. So he would shoot big angles to get us to Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving in the Superdome was a big deal and a big earner for us. And then it because all those angles were shot, it was tight. It helped the whole territory because you got to see some of those matches in some form at the weekly town. So, but we just, when you got that many people booking, man, it's just, you need one voice. You have the committee there to suggest, to critique, to add to, but not to create the entire direction. That should be the guy that's responsible for that, and that's the booker. And I just didn't, I don't know, I never had I watched a biography the other day on Glenn Fry, and I didn't have that peaceful, easy feeling ever with the group booking committee, because it's impossible to not have an agenda. You're human, and you're all involved in the production.
A scientific wrestling 2 out of 3 match series is scheduled between Dr. Death and Rotundo, who are no longer partners. And then we head to Halloween Havoc 89, where Rotundo takes on Tom Zink, and Meltzer would give it 3/4 of a star. It's a really long match, though. Z-Man gets the pin after 13 minutes and 23 seconds. Meltzer would write, Rotundo caught Zink in a head scissors, and the boring chant started. The fans were cheering when Rotundo worked Zink over, although they cheered when the finish happened and Zink won. I think they were cheering more just because the match was over. The last 2 minutes were good anyway. I want to mention the unthinkable is about to happen here. Right off of losing the TV title at Clash of the Champions, Mike Rotundo and Steve Williams beat the Road Warriors for the tag titles after Teddy Long turns heel. I don't really understand turning Teddy Long, but my goodness, Mike Rotundo and Dr. Death beating the Road Warriors for the tag straps, that means a lot. I mean, in this era, you could probably count on one hand the number of times you remember seeing the Road Warriors lose, right?
Yeah, especially a pinfall loss. You know, God forbid that you'd ask them to submit, because that ain't going to happen. It's funny how before Dana White exploded USC and the realism of submission maneuvers, submission holds, submission finishes were exploited. I think that helped enhance the acceptance of a babyface losing by submission. And now it's not unusual. But boy, back in the day, you know, I remember Cowboy talking about some heel he brought in to work with him, and he said, I got to figure out something for his finish because he uses a submission, and I ain't going to submit to anybody. Okay, you got the most powerful weapon in the world. It's called that great big old eraser on your pencil. Do what you want to do. So it was a shock, and that's why I say, Conrad, Doc and Mike could have been the tag champions for a long time, because there's just no doubt in the people with common sense, you can see that they're damn sure good enough to beat the Road Warriors. And that was the tag team benchmark in that era. If you beat the Road Warriors, you're kind of a made man. So anyway, I thought it was a smart booking, and I was a little amazed that the Road Warriors did business in that respect. and it's not knocking them. It's just that that's how they were raised. That's how they're brought into the business. They were bulletproof. But the thing about it is, if the Road Warriors, if Hawk and Animal didn't have as much respect for Doc and Rotunda as they did, that finish had never gone down that way. They'd have changed it where a disqualification counts the same as a pinfall, and they work a DQ or something like that. But it was just, I thought it was smart booking, and I thought it was a great way to do business by the LOD.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.